Hello, tile friends. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast Tile Money. This is the podcast where we talk about the business of being a tile contractor. My name is Luke Miller, your host. It is my privilege to be here today. I'm super excited. We've got another great interview. Keith Fogarty, owner of Trueline Flooring out of Pender Island, and that is up in British Columbia, Canada. So we're going to talk about his business, some of the struggles he's had, and we're going to be talking about the value of what he does and kind of like an aha moment he had recently when he was finishing up one of his jobs. Before we bring Keith in, I want to take a minute to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Happy Tile Guy. Go to happytileguy.com if you are in need of a website. My partner and I are making websites for tile contractors. The National Tile Contractors Association has been a sponsor of Tile Money for the last 18 or so months. I want to thank the NTCA. If you are looking for a trade association who truly cares about you, check out the NTCA. They are the largest in the world trade organization for tile contractors. And that is where you will find some of the most successful tile contractors in the United States. So go to tile-assn.com to find out more about the NTCA. I want to thank Latercrete for being a sponsor of the podcast. Latercrete is a manufacturer of all things, materials, waterproofing, installation materials, and they literally invented thinset, not that long ago, right here in the United States, in the 60s, I believe it was, or the 50s. I say not that long ago. And how cool is that? A company who invented thinset. I can get behind that. And I want to thank GoBoard, John's Mansville company. GoBoard has recently came on as a sponsor, and I am super excited about our relationship. They are very keen on assisting tile contractors. They want your feedback. If you haven't seen the GoBoard product, it is a product for building showers, waterproof, lightweight boards for shower installation. So check out GoBoard, and please take a minute to reach out to all of my sponsors. Tell them you appreciate the support of Tile Money. All right, without further ado, let us bring on Keith Fogarty. Hi, Keith.
Hey, buddy.
How are you?
Morning. I'm doing well, Luke. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Good to see your smile this morning.
Good to see you too, man.
Yeah. So did I mess anything up? Tell us a little bit more about your background, where you're at, and a little bit about your business.
No, you've done really well so far, and I'll let you know kind of where I started.
Okay.
Kind of a long story, but I'll just start. I'll just hop
Sure.
right into it. I
Yeah.
dropped out of school at 15. I just wasn't into school. I knew it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had a feeling I was just going to find a trade and roll with it. I wasn't sure what I was into yet. Like I worked a little bit with metal and stuff, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll be like a shop guy doing metal stuff.
Mm.
When I dropped out of school, I was pumping gas for the first year. The
Yeah.
school was nice, and they put me in a program. They're like, this kid's not going to school. We got to get him doing something, right? Let's figure out what he wants to do. So I pumped gas for a year, and I got school credits for that. Then I did work in a metal shop for a while. I worked at a flower shop for a while. I washed dishes a couple times. I did a bunch of stuff, but that was great. Like that work experience that I got in those 5 years from 15 to 20 was kind of exponential for me. It was exponential growth because when my buddies were done school, they were done high school and college, they came out into the workforce, and I already had 5 years experience, right?
Right.
And those years, it's like I was developing, right? So I was just like becoming a good worker, a general all around good worker. So I think I was about 19 and I was hanging out. We are just, I drank heavily back then.
Sure.
And a buddy of mine came over and he's like, hey, we're doing floors tomorrow, man. Do you want to help out? And I said, yeah, sure. Because I was kind of the guy who would just pitch in with whatever.
Yeah.
If you need like day labor or whatever, go see Keith at the place where they're selling weed or whatever. And,
Right.
and he'll do stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
you had work ethic.
I did, yes. Yeah. And I just liked having beer money back then. I liked drinking quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we were doing VCT in a school, and that lasted about a week, right? And the boss liked me, so I stuck around for about a year with him. And then one of his guys split off, and I stuck with him for about 7 years. And at that point, we were just doing pretty much pre-finished hardwood installs and laminate.
Okay.
We do the odd staircase and railing system, and we do loads of trim, loads of baseboard and quarter round, of course.
Sure.
Lots of rip outs. Like most jobs, it was all residential renovations. We were working for stores for square footage rates, of course.
Yeah.
So our typical day was like go to the store, pick up our hardwood, go to the job, rip out the carpet, like move the furniture, rip out the carpet, rip off the trim, clean the floor, install the wood, baseboard back on, furniture back on with felt pads, and we're off to the next one the next day, right?
Yeah.
We'd average about 100 square feet an hour, which was pretty good. There was 3 of us. We're all in our 20s. So we were just kind of motoring.
Jamming out, yeah.
Yeah, just giving her. Again, it's piecework in Toronto at that point. I think we were getting paid $1.50 a square foot, man.
Yeah.
We'd work for $1.25 cash, and we did okay at that, because my boss at the time had 2 good employees, and, he paid me a square footage. So if I want to make more money, I'd work faster.
Right.
And that was really good. Like we learned to get good and fast because we still had like clients, and this is the same in the tile world. It's all relative, right? And we did dabble in tile back then as well. Just because it seemed like the guys who were doing tile there they weren't that great. There'd be some new tiles there in the front entrance or at the hearth or whatever, or kitchen or a bathroom. And they wouldn't take into account like where the tile ended and the height of the tile, the transitions, right? And it's like, we can do a better job than this. So we started doing our own tiles as well back then.
Sure. Yeah.
And at that point, it seemed like a lot of guys were just putting mesh on chipboard and, and putting a bit of self-leveler on it and slapping tiles in. And I think they're charging like $2.50 a foot or something for 12 by 12s, ridiculous rates. Again, all through the stores, right? So it's a challenging environment. So yeah, that was kind of my introduction to tile, was way back then.
And you saw an opportunity, and you were like, well, we understand the height differences. You kind of started installing some tile there, and then what was the next step? What was the next big point where you're like, I think I really like tile work, and higher finish, work.
Well, then I moved out to British Columbia for a few years, and I dabbled with all sorts of construction for a while, because I moved to this little island. I moved to Pender Island, and there wasn't enough hardwood for me to do. There's only 3,000 people here, right?
So yeah, so a completely different environment.
Totally different. Toronto's go, go, go. There's people like at your heels. They want your job. It's super competitive. Whereas here, there's nobody who does what I do now anyway.
Yeah.
Back then I was just trying to break into the market here and get people to trust me. So I did whatever. And that was really great for me because I got a more general knowledge of all construction, whereas before I'd just done hardwood and that's it. I was back in Toronto 2010 to 2015. And back then I was just doing hardwood again. So I'm a hardwood guy. But again, I did my own tiles here and there, right? People at the store would just be like, hey, do these tiles in the front entrance and do the tiles in the bathroom. I'd say, sure. And again, the money wasn't there. That was so challenging for me. Trying to get a little bit more than $1.50 a square foot to smash in hardwood, or $3 a tile for 12 by 12 tiles.
Yeah.
They'd laugh at you. They'd laugh you out of the store if you wanted like $1.55. They'd be like, it's not going to happen.
Wow. Wow.
And it was so demeaning and so frustrating.
Yeah, because you knew the effort that was going to go into it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I had good employees. And once you're trained, like once you've done a couple houses in hardwood, you can do that all day, every day.
Yeah.
I would usually take care of like the challenging parts. I'd get them started and get them finished, and they could do all the square footage. Again, same thing with tile. It's all relative. It's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a challenging environment to be in, man. It was like, the money just wasn't quite there. And then I got kind of brainwashed and geared to think that I was only worth $1.50 a square foot.
Right.
So then I'd get my own little private jobs once in a while, and I'd be bold and charge $1.75 a square foot. Right.
Right.
So I let these shitty stores determine my worth,
Yeah. That is the way it goes.
Yeah.
We do let them determine our worth, and maybe we increase it by 50%, but or maybe 100%, but it's really still so low. So we find ourselves in that precarious situation.
Yeah, it just wasn't cutting it, and it was, I actually did well. Like I think one of the years in 2014, 2015, probably both years, I grossed $250,000, but I had 2 employees, and that's labor only, pretty much labor only. a
Yeah.
little bit of material here and there, but that was decent for me. I was like, yeah, I'm doing okay.
Yeah. I'd say
And a
that.
lot of like I was moving back out to the coast because I was just sick of it there. It was too busy, too much. So my buddies were like, "You're crazy. You're doing so well with your business." And I was like, "You know what? I think if I put in the 5 years, like 2010 to 2015 in Toronto, if I put in that much energy and that much work out in BC, I'd be farther along."
Yeah.
So now it's 5 years later. I've been in British Columbia 2015 to now 2020, and I'm doing better for sure.
Yeah.
Like I've put in a lot of energy. I work almost every day. So since I moved out here, again, I'm trying to do hardwood, but there's no real demand for it. There's
Mm.
hundreds of carpenters on this beautiful little island that I live on,
Oh, right.
and everybody wants tile done, and nobody wants to do it.
Hmm.
There's one
Interesting.
tile. I know I'm in such an advantageous position. It's
Yeah.
wonderful, right? So I started Googling like how to tile showers because I never really tiled a shower before,
Yeah.
and I came up on Tile Geeks and Global Tile Posse on Facebook, of course. And that's just a wealth of knowledge. It's massive, right?
Yeah.
So from there, like I already had the skill set, so it was totally transferable and it was kind of easy. I'd done enough tiles anyway, so I started doing showers for people. And now in the past 5 years, I've probably done 120 showers here, I think, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Um,
So
yeah, thank you. Yeah,
30 a year or 25 a year?
something like that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do lots of hearths, lots of backsplashes, of course, bathroom floors, kitchen floors, entrances, stuff like that.
Right.
Um,
And your
and
work is incredible. I mean, if you guys aren't following Trueline _ Flooring on Instagram, go check Keith's page out.
thank you. I'm in a cool place where there's like the demographic here is older folks,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what the statistic is, but it's like 70% of the island is like 60 plus,
And
but they're
they're pretty wealthy, living on an island. Are they like retiring in their dream spot or something like that?
that's exactly it. And
Yeah.
if they're not from here, it's a second or third home, right? So
Right.
there's money here,
Yeah.
and everybody seems kind of quirky and eccentric, and they've got really cool taste. Hence, like some of the photos that you see on my Instagram, they're like really fun, colorful, vibrant things.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. I'm really fortunate for that. It's not just like 12 by 24 beige tiles, right?
Right.
And I'm in a fortunate position again, living on an island where if somebody doesn't want to wait for me, if they can't wait for me because I'm super booked up for 3, 4, 6 months, whatever, they'll get guys from town's Victoria, British Columbia, or Vancouver, but typically Victoria because it's only 50 minutes away on the ferry. But those guys, when they come over, they charge $600 for a consultation for the day,
Mm.
which is reasonable because that's their day. It's
Yeah.
gone.
It's a whole day. Yeah.
Yep. You got to get to the ferry early and sit in the lineup, and then you're on the boat for an hour, and then you come over here. You got to get to the ferry early to get back again. You're on the boat for an hour. It's like, it's quite the process. So that also enables me to kind of charge decent money as well because everything I do, every material I use comes over on this ferry, right?
Right.
There's a courier system that I use, and they come over on the boat. They go 3 days a week, or I go myself, and the ferry costs $40 every time to get
Mm.
on. It's free
Right.
to leave the island, and you got to pay to get on.
You got to
It's
pay to
quite,
get back. That's
yeah,
funny.
it's quite the racket.
Yeah.
Um, so so yeah, there was one fellow doing tiles here, and he's retired now. I think he's 70.
Yeah.
And he's trained up a young woman named Crystal, and she's a fantastic setter. But I think she's working in Victoria, so I've got this place all to myself,
Oh, wow.
and I'm just jammed up, which is again a great position to be in because I can set my rates.
Yeah.
Um, I'm doing $15 a foot for floor tiles and then showers. I'm in such a good position that the contractors here know me and trust me, and they know that the work needs to get done by somebody, and
Right.
it's better off getting done by me because my work's good and I'm here. I'm everybody's neighbor, right?
Right.
So I go do the work and then I just invoice whatever I want whenever I want.
Yeah.
So I don't
And it,
have to
and it
like,
work, and they pay the invoice.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's never
Yeah.
any squabbles about money or anything like that because these guys are building nice homes,
Right. Yeah.
right? They're building people's dream homes or retirement homes or whatever.
Yeah. What a great position to be in. And what do you have employees currently, or is it just you?
Employees kind of come and go. That's a challenging part out here is finding
Right.
employees.
Yeah.
On these little it's kind of conservative with older folks where I live. The next island over where Jeff Delensky and Jake Patchell live, Salt Spring, that's more hippie.
Mm.
It's kind of flaky sometimes.
Little younger people or something.
Yeah. And there's still old folks there with money as well. And that island's maybe like 10 or 12,000 people. It's really interesting, like a whole different ball game working and living on an island,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I imagine.
Finding labor, I have a young person named Starla who works with me. She's been off and on for 3 or 4 years now, and she's great.
Mm-hmm.
She's competent and possesses great common sense, which is awesome. You know, just as far as like project management goes,
Yeah.
she knows like what we need to do to get the next thing done.
Yeah.
Because I do kind of full renos, right? Like the one that I just did, you'll see on Instagram with the big curve on there. We did a bunch of rip out. We moved furniture. We installed the tile in the kitchen, and then I installed the wood. I sanded and finished the wood. I installed all the trim.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the three facets to my business: is tile installation, hardwood installation, and sanding and finishing. And I also do trim work and staircases and railings.
Yeah.
And it's all. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's that was a really fun one to do.
And so like this is the one this is how it came out.
Yep, that's how it turned out.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I installed all the wood and I sanded and finished the wood, which is a whole other ball game as well. So I've got all the machines for that. You know, like actually when I first moved here, there was demand for sanding and finishing, right? So I went and spent 30 grand on the machines to sand and finish floors, and then it just totally dried up, and I started doing tile pretty much full time. Yeah.
Oh wow, wow.
So the machines have paid for themselves, though. Like I've used them enough that they've paid for themselves.
Okay, good.
But it's been an absolute pleasure doing tile because I hadn't done like custom showers like the ones I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I just found it so challenging in the beginning, and still, you know.
Yeah, for sure. The tiles are always changing, right? It's always a challenge. Yeah.
And some of the houses here, a lot of folks call them the Pender Special. They're just kind of poorly built, and the walls are all out of whack, and just some homeowner did whatever, you know, and the place is just jacked up, and it needs some serious help.
Yeah.
So that's been a challenge, you know, and you know how it is. People don't really want to pay for prep work sometimes. Like when I'm dealing with a private client, a homeowner, they're like, you got to do what, 3 days of prep work to make this like tileable? I just want you to tile it. It's like, I can't just tile it, you know?
Yeah.
Just settle down.
Yeah. Calm down.
So, but most folks here are really reasonable and pretty relaxed. You know, they understand that there's a thing called Pender time as well. We're on Pender time.
Right. I was going to mention that island time for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm one who's not on island time, like as far as a worker here goes, as far as a business owner goes on Pender Island.
Give it another
I'm motoring.
5-10 years.
I hope so. I would love to be on Pender time, but I'm stuck on freaking Toronto time. I'm going full tilt, man. I've been working 7 days a week since COVID happened, right?
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually really happy to be sitting down with you this morning because I was able to stretch and do a bit of yoga before this. And I cleaned my van a little bit. And I was like, oh, finally I have some time because I'm usually out the door just going full tilt.
Yeah.
I'm just drowning in work. There's too much. But again, people are like, I'm really lucky that people are like reasonable. And they're like, yeah, we'll just wait for you, man. I don't want to get somebody from Victoria because you're my neighbor.
Right.
If something happens, I know you'll come and fix it or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not rushing to catch the ferry to get the heck out of here at the end of the day too. That's a common problem with the guys from town.
Right.
So
drop the tools and go.
Yep.
Wow. So it sounds like you're in a really, blessed, unique situation. What are the struggles that come with that? Like living in that scenario and on the island, or there, I'm sure there's different struggles that come up. Not finding help, you already mentioned.
Yeah. I've got another dude working with me part-time. He's doing pretty well also. And the struggles are, like, I'm waiting on other people sometimes, the electricians, the plumbers, and they're not around just because they're too busy too. Everybody's maxed out and getting pulled in 10 different directions. There's too much work and not enough people to do the work. There's not enough housing here because of, like, I guess Airbnb, in the summer it's all vacation rentals, and a lot of people come here and hang out for a week or two at a time because it's a beautiful island and the whales go by and there's deer everywhere and there's eagles flying everywhere. And it's gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
But that in turn brings up the housing crisis. It's like, if there was somebody who's a good worker and they want to come here and work with me from somewhere else, they wouldn't be able to because there's nowhere for them to live.
Wow.
There's literally no rentals.
Wow.
So that's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes before there was Pender Courier is fairly new, but before there was a courier, if I was on a job and I ran out of something, I'd have to stop and run to Victoria,
Yeah.
and that was a big challenge. So I'm so grateful for the courier because I can just text them and they're in Victoria and say, hey, can you stop by? I go to Golden Prosol in
Right.
Victoria there, and they grab whatever I need and bring it back for me.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yes, super, super great service, those guys. And other than that, the only challenge is like I have too much work and not enough time to do it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm struggling with is
Yeah.
I need more people who want to work full time and just giver with me, maybe like a right hand man or a partner sort of thing is what I need.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, you might, find it after this episode releases. I mean, it sounds like a great area to be in.
oh,
You
it's
might,
lovely, man. And before I was working 7 days a week, like in my spare time, I do a lot of yoga.
mhm.
Not so much because of COVID now, but I used to do 5, 6 classes a week.
Yeah.
So I was out doing that often. I hang out with my friends once in a while, which is always just lovely and fun. And I go on hikes and stuff like that because it's gorgeous here. Like
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. If you look at my personal Facebook page, then you'll see like some of the views and stuff. Um, I usually go away in the winter too. I try to go just bum around Mexico or whatever for a couple months
Yeah.
because I'm single, got no kids. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll just shut down the business in January, February when it's raining all day, every day here.
Right.
And I'll go bum around Mexico and just do whatever I want.
Get some sun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get stimulated too. It's like
Yeah.
here when the grind is just working, working, working. Then I go to these silly little towns in Mexico and just hang out drinking beers.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wicked. It's super stimulating. It's super exotic. And I'm always checking out the tile work too. I've probably posted pictures from places in Nicaragua and Guatemala and Colombia and stuff too.
Yeah. They're incredible artisans down there.
They can be.
Yeah.
They
Can't
can
beat
also
that.
just slap stuff up
Slap
and
it
it's
in.
like ridiculous.
Right.
But I love that too, because it's functional and nobody really, they're just like, yeah, it's cool. It's a shower. It's got tiles. It works.
Yeah.
You
It
know?
works.
So,
That's wild, man. So,
yeah.
what was, I wanted to get into this concept that you brought about in the Facebook group the other day. You went live and you made a nice little video, and you were talking about these 2 bunk beds in this house, and then you went on to show all the work that you had done, and
Mm.
there was like a minimal, what do we call it? Maybe 20% difference in the price. The 2 bunk beds cost 15 grand. And then all of the work you had done, which included, wood flooring, and you can tell a little more, a shower or two, tile work through the whole house was like, just over 20 grand, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
And it was kind of like an aha moment, like a revelation of the value of what we're bringing in. You want to expand more on that? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you nailed it. That's right. My buddy Lino built these 2 bunk beds. And again, if you watch on the video with the poor sound, it'll be better now that I got a new iPhone.
Yeah.
There's a double bunk bed and then a triple bunk bed. They're so nicely built. It's all solid oak.
Beautiful.
He did a beautiful stain match. They're wicked, right? They're super
Yeah.
custom. They're awesome. They're worth 15 grand, I think. Like I think Lino charges properly.
Sure.
But I looked at that and I was like, wow, these bunk beds are amazing. They're massive. I love them. But I was like, 15 grand for those. And yeah, I did 1,400 square feet of flooring. I know the wood flooring, the engineered flooring came in at $17 a square foot as well because they got these extra long boards too. They're 10-foot long boards.
Wow. Yeah.
Super nice flooring, right? But $17 a foot is expensive to supply floor. It's usually $7 or $8 for nice wood, right?
Yeah.
$5 is like Home Depot. 7, 8, 9 is nicer. So 17 was quite lavish.
Price tag. Yeah.
Yeah, really nice. Beautiful product to install. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So I did 1,400 square feet of that. I installed 2 staircases in the same wood. I did the hearth, the backsplash in both bathrooms, backsplash in the fireplace, tiled the front entrance, tiled both bathroom floors, and tiled both bathroom showers. Substantial amount of work. Yeah, I was at $22,200 all in.
Yeah.
So that includes my labor and my materials. I put Detra under everything. I 8+9 the walls. I used probably 30 pieces of metal in there, 30 pieces of Schluter.
That adds up. Yeah.
Yep. A few shelves, right? There's another, like those nice Schluter shelves. I love those things. So, but I crunched the numbers quick, and I did pocket about 15 grand myself. That was over the course of like 3 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I made 5 grand a week, kind of thing. So I'm not like balking at that. That's fine. But I was just looking at the value, and it's like I put floors in your whole house for 20
Right.
grand. You bought
Yeah.
2 bunk beds for 15.
Yeah.
People also don't bat an eye when they spend 20 grand on a fridge,
Right.
or whatever, $10,000 on a couch, or
Right.
it's all relative like that, right? Like a whole living room set, what does that cost? If you go to the Brick or whatever, it's one of those furniture stores,
Yeah.
you can buy a new couch, a couple chairs, and a table, and even a big TV, and you walk out of there, you spent 12, $14,000 or
Yeah.
whatever, right? And for some reason that's okay, and they don't bat an eye at that. But when my invoice comes in at $20,000 for doing this amazing perfect work for tiling and putting flooring in your whole house, they're like, whoa, that's expensive. It's like, no, it's not. That's
Yeah.
cheap, man. I
Yeah.
should have charged 40 grand for all that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's putting equity in their home. Like if they ever sell their house, it's like they've got these beautiful floors, right?
Yeah.
It's I a buddy of mine said that to me the other day. He's a contractor here, and he's like, we're putting money in these people's pockets, man. When you
Right.
go and do their floors, and you
Absolutely.
you send them an invoice for $15,000-$20,000, when they sell that house in 3 years, they get asking price or above asking price right away, and they increase the value of their home by like 50, 60, $80,000, whatever. They can up
Yeah.
the asking price with your beautiful work. We're making other people rich.
Yeah, no,
So,
absolutely. It's a great ROI, return on their investment,
yep.
to put 20 grand into a bathroom, that now they can sell that home for 40, 50 grand more because it's the peace of mind. I mean, nobody wants to buy a house that the bathroom needs to be remodeled, the kitchen needs to be remodeled. They want it done. And a lot of these people can tell if it was done correctly or, with quality or, the kind of the grade, is it builder grade? Is it, what kind of grade is it, in this case, they had spent, you had mentioned it was like 1,400 square feet of flooring.
Yeah.
And of course they bought, what is it? 10% extra, 5% extra with
Yeah, probably
wood.
10%. Yeah.
So they bought extra and it was 17 a foot.
Yeah.
So they spent, 25,000 with taxes easy on just the wood flooring alone. Not because that's like normal. It's like, no, we want this particular, wood. We don't care that it's double what, a quality wood is. It's just, we want the length, we want the look, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get pushback on the pricing or are you just saying no?
In that particular one, I didn't. No, I walked through with the
Yeah.
contractor. I had to give estimates for that because there was a designer, and it was a package home too.
Sure. Okay.
So I had to like give estimates and get approval. I had to get approval in like 3 different layers there,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I did. I looked at it after and I was like, I should have charged more money. And then he told me that the wood was worth $17 a foot, and I was like, I charged 5 to install it, which again for me is high, coming from a background where I get $1.50
From
a foot.
Toronto. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like, so 5, I do fine at 5. I do well. Again, I make 5 grand a week at $5 a foot. Um, but so no, there wasn't any kickback. They accepted it happily, but
Yeah.
I should have charged more.
You could have charged double.
Yes, I
I
could have
think I
charged double
really
on
think you
everything.
could have. Yeah,
Yeah,
you could have been at 45 grand all in for your labor and rough materials, and I think they wouldn't have batted an eye.
yeah,
Honestly, and then the other thing I want to unbox here just a little bit, if you'll have this conversation with me, you're saying I make 5 grand a week. I made 5 grand a week because it was 4 weeks at, at 20 grand labor. But in reality, I would really be curious and encourage you to talk to your bookkeeper, talk to your CPA, and really break this down. How much is the government, how much is up there in Canada, I don't know much about the tax system, but how much is going to taxes, how much is going back into the business, and, just to really know, okay, now I know, I'm making more like, 400 or 600 a day that really goes into Keith's pocket, instead
hmm
of, when we look at that large number, because that can just be a mind trip. And I think a lot of contractors struggle with that.
yep, yeah, exactly. 20 grand looks great when you get that $20,000 check. It's like, oh, that's great, that's huge.
Right.
But yeah, what percentage do you actually get to keep? And
Right.
thank you for that. That is where I kind of struggle with my business, is I just try to make lots of money, and I've been working my ass off, man. I've been working
Yeah.
7 days a week on these jobs too.
Yeah.
just because I want to get things done for people. The job with the curve there, that's a residential reno, and the folks were living in their house. They're essentially squatting in their
Mm,
basement while I was there, and I'm like, I'm just going to work every day and
yeah.
get the hell out of here quicker for you guys, so you can set up and resume your
Sure.
normal lives.
Sure. Yeah.
Places like this that are being built, I have a bit more freedom where I can come and go. But that's another thing. It's like I'm working 7 days a week, right?
Mm,
So $5,000 a week, but I work 7 days. That's not a 5 day week. That's a seven
right.
day week for me, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like I could have done better on that. Like I wouldn't mind 7 grand for that week
Yeah.
instead of five.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you're right. I need to dial in my numbers a bit better and just try to figure out what, like I said before, I'm like, I just charge lots. I try to charge lots and then hope the
Yeah.
accountant figures it all out and I do okay in the end and I have money when it's all left over.
Yeah.
I do track my hours and I write down everything pretty specifically when I get home at the end of the day and what I paid my helper and what materials I used and all that stuff. I track that.
That's
I've been
good.
too busy to really figure out a lot of the jobs and I'm just like, yeah, I did okay. I know that.
Yeah.
And on to the next one.
Right. Yeah.
So that's that's the whole reason I joined your Facebook page too, is I guess Jason McDaniel said it on the Global Tile Posse. He was talking about tile money and I was like, oh, that's something I need. I need help with this.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
joined your group and it's been super beneficial. And I have effectively doubled my rates over the past 4 years, I think.
Great. Yeah.
I think I don't know how long I've been a member of your group, maybe a year, but I've been gradually just boosting my rates because when I moved here, I was working for 50 or $60 an hour. And now I don't do anything for less than 100 usually.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Um,
great.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really really good. I mean, you're in a great position, and I'm curious to continue to watch your progress over there, and that's exciting. I'm stoked for you, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
And so one of the other challenges I have here is that there are some bigger homes being built.
Mm,
There's I don't know, this is all just kind of rumor and hearsay for me now, but there's a bigger one on the other side of the island. I think it's a 7,000 square foot home.
mm,
I think the budget's pretty big. Um, and I've worked for the fellow in the past. He's an excellent guy, excellent builder. He's the guy who builds all the 10 and $15 million homes here, right?
mm, right.
And he called me a while ago and he's like, hey, do you want to do some tile work? And I was like, I'd love to work on that home. Yeah, it's like that's kind of
Yeah.
once in a lifetime sort of thing, right? There's six
Yeah.
bathrooms and it's all high quality, high end everything, right?
Yeah.
It's like the doorknobs in the house are, $250,000 for the doorknobs in the whole house or whatever. Like everything's
Right.
high end and nice.
Right.
But because it's so custom high end, usually I think that the way things work there is that he gets guys in and it's like, take your time, make it perfect. Charge like I worked for him last time on a really nice home and I did 6,000 square feet of hardwood, which again was gorgeous. That stuff was, I think, $40 a square foot, supplied only. So there's a quarter mil on the hardwood. And
Mm,
I just worked for 50 bucks an hour because had I done square footage on 6,000 square feet of that wood, it took 2 months for me and another guy to do 6,000 square feet of wood. So I
wow.
would have lost my shirt, even at 20 bucks a square foot, I would have lost my shirt. So they're like, so I think
Just
they want kind
hourly,
of,
right?
yeah. So it's kind of hard for me to go in at 100 bucks an hour on jobs like that. I don't want to lose a job. Like I'd love to do that caliber of project,
Yeah.
but I also don't like, it's like the financials of it are I can be out working and still make my 5 or 6 grand a week out here just doing whatever, as opposed to working on these big job sites where it's like take your time, go slowly, make it perfect and ride it out a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a struggle and that's a good struggle for me to have. Um, so I'm just going to open up communication with the fellow. He's a
That's
great
it.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just going to chat with him and say, like, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
The financials, the economics of it say that I should just keep working. If you don't want to pay me 100 bucks an hour, then I should
Yeah.
just keep working, doing my own thing out here and not go to your big, massive house. So
Yeah, you might be surprised. He might say $100 an hour is normal for your level of work. That's, he would value that, maybe he'll want to negotiate a little bit. I'm curious myself. Would you negotiate? Would you come down to say 80, or have you thought about that? What's your bottom price for this? Because with this type of job, that's going to be months of security. Not that you really have to worry about that. So there's two things that come to my mind. First of all, oh, this is great. I'm going to be at this one job for months at a time, right? but then all your other clients are going to have to go looking elsewhere. They, in your situation, they're really not going to be able to find anybody. But it's just kind of like an irritant to them. The other thing that comes to my mind is like, you mentioned twice already, you can take your time on that job site. I've been on these jobs like in Pebble Beach and stuff where everybody's just almost, it's just like a holiday, we're being productive, but everybody's just a little bit low key, and because the money's there and you're getting an hourly rate, and the homeowners and the clients, they're not in any big rush. It's their third home, fourth home, whatever the case might be. They just, it's really more about, they these kind of people sometimes always have a big project in the works, and it's not really like, oh, we need to move in by this date. What are your thoughts on that? Is there value there to lower your price, or what are you thinking?
Good call. Those are excellent points. And yeah, it's great. Like that atmosphere, quality on these jobs is paramount, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't care. Time and money don't really exist on the jobs
Right.
too much.
Right.
It's just quality is all that matters. They have a vision. It needs to be executed. That's it. Um, would I be willing to lower my hourly rate? Probably. I might go to like 85 would be probably
Yeah.
my lowest, maybe 75.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. There's something like, it wasn't too long ago. I was just maxed out and I was driving along with Starla, my helper, my right hand. And I was like, I would love it if Dave called me and just asked me to do this big job. And because I was getting pulled in 10 different directions, man. I was maxed out. I was like, this is too much. I don't know how I'm getting by with all these jobs.
Yeah.
And I'm set up on a few because, again, I'm waiting for people here and waiting for people there. So I'm just like, I'm on a few different jobs. I'm bouncing from job to job and just doing what I can to keep myself working, even though I'm waiting for other people. So it's like, I would love to be on this big job and just get set up and work. And then, those are my days.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, finally he called. And it's going to be, I think, in the winter, which things typically slow down here in the winter, not for me so much, but for other people.
Right.
So, and like I said, usually I take off in the winter. So maybe January, February, March, when it's just piss and rain out all day, every day, I'll be in this nice big house doing tiles.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah. The kind of job where you can, have a work set up for months on end in a room, just dedicate a room for work tools and stuff.
Yeah, man. And I'm really excited to see what materials they choose, because I'll go and have a walkthrough and I'll have a look at everything. So again, that might be like a determining factor for me as well. It's like, if they have these wicked materials, I'll be like, yeah, no, I'll work for $50 an hour. I just want to do this job.
Yeah, for sure.
So I do actually have a little bit of a sliding scale here. I'm not like super ruthless business guy, because there are a lot of older folks here. Some of them they just made it here just by like the skin of their pants, right? The seat of their pants. They're on a fixed income, and they're just, this is where they're going to pass away, right? And they love it.
Functionality. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So it's like, I'll give you a bit of a deal. I don't mind doing that. It's like how you guys down in the States give veterans a deal, and maybe first responders and stuff like that. I do that for older folks here.
Yeah.
Providing if they need the help, it's like, yeah, I can knock a bit of money off the invoice. I don't mind that. I'll help you out.
Yeah. I love that attitude. A lot of the contractors I talk to do things like this. And by charging a premium for the folks who can afford it and who do have the money, and not backing down on those kind of jobs, you can help the common person out and say, hey, like you're saying, and if that's part of your charity, or that's just part of who you are as a human. I mean, what better thing to do? I mean, that's the way the world should go around,
Yeah, I feel that, man. Another thing that I'd like to bring up too is like, I have, when I was doing my taxes, or I was sitting down with my accountant a while ago, and they asked me about my charitable donations. I think I owed $800 or something at that point. And I said, yeah, I donate. And I brought up my receipt, and I was like, I donate $960 a year to Plan International Canada. So I've got a sponsor child in Guatemala. Nice. And then that took $400 off the money that I owed. And I was like, oh, I didn't know I thought donations were like, you can tax deductible or whatever, but I was like, I don't know how this works. I didn't realize I was going to get 50% of that money back.
Right.
Right. So that's huge. So I encourage everybody to donate to something like that if you can.
Yeah.
It makes me feel so good. Like I well up with joy when I get the little notification or the things in the mail with the photos of my sponsor kid. Her name's Leslie, and she's like 11 now or something. I've been
That's
sponsoring
awesome.
her for like 3 years. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, it's super cool, man.
Yeah.
It's super cool. And I also I sponsored like the local little soccer team, right? I got this jersey on here.
Nice.
So that's another good thing for folks who are in areas where they are struggling to find work or whatever. That's an excellent way to market yourself. Find the sport that you like, whether it's baseball or soccer or whatever,
Yeah.
and reach out and see if you can sponsor them and get like your logo on the jerseys, and then pay for their freaking pizza party at the end of the year. It might
Yeah.
cost you $1,000 all in, right?
Yeah.
And that's wicked advertising, and you can go to the games, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
And then you get your the word out, and people recognize you and see who you are. I think it's
Yeah.
just like a really good marketing strategy. When I first moved to Pender and I was trying to get these folks to trust me, there's a lot of transient folks who come and go here. So I was trying to get my foot in the door with all the contractors. What I did is they actually reached out and they just put on the community hall. There's a big board there and it says like, this Saturday concert or whatever. They said this weekend floor installation party. So they had bought new flooring for the whole upstairs in the hall. It's about 2,000 square feet.
Mm.
So I went and helped out with that, and they ended
Yeah.
up actually paying me to finish it. This is going back 12 or 13 years ago now when I first
Yeah.
moved here the first time around. So they ended up paying me to finish the installation, and then ended up paying me to sand and finish it. And they wrote up in the little Pender Post magazine, they did a little write up on me and who I
Nice.
am and where I'm from, and that I actually did the floors in the hall, in the
That's cool.
community hall, which is huge, right? So I
Yeah.
volunteered. I volunteered at the Legion, and I did a couple other volunteer things, and it's like the ulterior motive was for me to get my name out.
Right.
So, I worked for free a bunch, but then people knew me and knew that I was a good person and saw my work firsthand. Like hundreds and hundreds of people saw the fact that I did that floor,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh wow, if he can do this, he can do our house. So
Yeah.
that went really, really well for me. And people just, they knew I was a nice person.
Yeah.
So they wanted to hire me.
Absolutely. No, that is key. I'm glad you brought this up, and that is really, the number one, point of Tile Money, of this podcast, is to preach, not just charge more, not just be profitable, not just know your numbers, but do it for a reason. The reason is because the vast majority of us contractors are good people. We're the heart of the community, and I 100% believe in small businesses, supporting small businesses, and assisting small businesses to be profitable. Not just because we're not the type of people who are going to go, hoard that money all to ourselves. If there's 1% of us, I'd be surprised. I don't even think it's that much. We're the type of people who, we can charge $1,000 a day or 100 an hour, and then we can turn around and give some of that back, put that back into the community. You're sponsoring a kid in Guatemala because you've been down there, you've traveled down there, you see these people, and it touched your heart and you wanted to do something. It allows you to do that. And guess what? It's a good thing to do. The governments give you a tax break. It's a win-win. And this is really the whole point of Tile Money is I'm not just saying rip people off, and I think I see this from time to time in the different groups, and they say, how can you rip your customers off? How can you charge that much? You shouldn't charge that much. I'm helping people. And I'm saying, no, these people who want tile, who want, expensive hardwood floors, they have money to spend. Let them spend it with us. We're going to put it back into the communities. We're going to be able to do things. Money does nobody any good in a bank. And that's part of the problem. That's part of the financial mess we're in, right now, as in a worldwide scene, is there's too much money sitting in banks, and people, they get all scared and they don't spend it. And like you've had the last 10 years, consumer spending is on the rise. Well, guess what? It's trickling down to us blue collar guys, and we're doing better than ever also. And that's the way it needs to be. So we also need to spend our money with the local restaurants, with the local businesses, with the local charities, with the local youth sports, and that's the way the world turns. So sorry for the getting on the soapbox there,
No,
but
I love it. I love it.
that's the whole point
I
of it.
agree
Yeah.
completely. Completely agree. Oh, there's a big deer running through my yard right now. I completely agree. And I feel that too. And I really, that kind of came to light for me a lot more when I moved to this little island, because we're our own little micro
Community.
economy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody supports local. You
Yeah.
know, that's important to everybody here. Like I don't buy stuff in town. I don't go to Victoria and go to Costco. I go to the little grocery store here.
Right.
Sure, it's more expensive, but it's more personable and there's less people there. I
Yeah.
don't like shopping with lots of people around. You know, so it's I've got the whole store to myself and they've got great products and they're nice folks and they're my friends and my neighbors and I'd like to support them
Yeah.
even if it costs me a bit more money,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of that, just shopping local. And you're right, us blue collar guys, we're the engine of the economy. We're making decent money and we're putting it back out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super important, man. That's a
And
really good point.
we're building people's dreams, from every level. We build shelter when people need shelter. We build shelter. I mean, we rehab homes. Like you said, the tile community is very tight. Down here, we do have a lot of contractors who give back to veterans, um, or people who have recently ended up in a wheelchair. We'll see this all the time. Ken Balin's really good with this. There's others I can't think of off the top of my head that organize these events. Hey, let's get two or three tile guys together and remodel this bathroom for this veteran who just came home in a wheelchair or whatever. I mean, I see it all the time. You
Yeah,
cannot do that when you have to work 7 days a week because you're only, charging 40, $50 an hour because you want to be the good guy. What
yep.
ends up happening is you spin your wheels for the rest of your life, and maybe maybe you make some people feel good, and maybe you feel good about that. But the flip side is you're not able to do as much as you think you're actually doing.
Exactly. And I think I just listened to the Adam Christensen podcast where he's talking
Yeah.
about the large panel things.
Yeah.
And he said exactly that. He's like, with the decent money I'm making on these panels, I'm able to help out veterans and stuff. And he's like, I
Yeah.
got this project going and the list goes on. It's like that's fantastic, right? And
Yeah.
that is you're doing your clients a disservice when you're not charging enough because yeah, you make that money and you put it back in other places. And I
Right.
think a lot of people they can afford to pay too. Like there's actually probably a small percentage if you're only charging 40 $50 an hour, it's a small percentage of those people who actually like need to only pay that much. They
Yeah.
don't have the means financially to pay you $100 an hour.
Right.
Um, Most people can't afford it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what I think I learned in Toronto's kind of like I don't know. It was kind of cutthroat, and I realized that people would just they'd work me till I was dead, and they didn't give a shit at all. And then they'd be like, "Can
Yeah.
I have $200 off?" You know, they just
Yeah.
didn't care. Here, people are more reasonable
Yeah.
and they're more caring. Like I've had people here to me say like, "Hey, man, you look tired. You should take a couple days off." I'm like, "Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that you recognize that. I'm toast. I'm burnt out. I've been riding the burnout roller coaster for months."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's nice. But in Toronto, they'd be like, "Hey, you look tired. Can you get my freaking job done quick and get out of
Do you
here?"
need a cup of Joe? Do you need some coffee?
Exactly, right? Get my job done and get the heck out
Yeah.
of here.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different environment here, and I really that's why I moved here is because people are just nicer. It seems, and the folks in Toronto are nice too. But it's when dealing with business, yeah, they're a bit more just aggressive, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, I interviewed Chris Rachel, and he lives in like Omaha area in a small community as well, and we were talking because I grew up in the Midwest. Excuse me. I grew up in the Midwest in small communities like farming communities, and it is everything you're saying. I've lived in a town of 3,000 people, and it's everything you're saying. You know everybody. You shop local because it's a community. You support the local community every chance you can. I mean, everybody out there would run to Costco and stuff. It doesn't sound like you have that luxury, but
No.
nonetheless, you keep it in the community, and it's a good feeling. And typically, what I've found is you can earn a very good living, especially when you compare it to your cost of living. Maybe not where you're at right now, I don't know, but where in the Midwest where the land just goes on, for it's probably the same in middle of Canada too, maybe.
Totally, yeah. Saskatchewan is just like,
Yeah,
yeah, same sort of thing. That's great.
yeah,
I like that too. And yeah, the cost of living here that's another reason to charge decent money. Again, it costs me money to leave the island anytime.
yeah,
I do need to leave the island for stuff. I go once every 3 weeks or so, once a month. Um, the gas, if I were to buy gas on the island, which I do, I have to, it's the most expensive gas in Canada. It's 30 cents more per liter than anywhere else.
Yeah.
just because it's on an island, right? So they've cornered the market and they've got
Right.
that racket going.
Yeah.
That I feel is kind of price gouging, but what do I know?
Yeah.
And everything's more expensive because everything has to get here and everything still has to get off the island some way, like garbage
Yeah.
and stuff, right?
Right.
So I'm living in one of the most expensive places in Canada for sure. And yeah, my rates need to reflect that, you know.
Did you think about it much when you were thinking about moving there? I mean, it sounds like you kind of checked it out for a couple shorter years and then moved away. Did you think about, well, I know it's expensive, but look at all these huge homes, look at the work. Was that in your head, or did that just kind of, did you luck out?
It did in and what's happened is like just in the past 5 years since I've been here with the Airbnb market, the housing prices have gone up. That's what I feel anyway. That's my impression.
Oh, right.
Because people are like, isn't it expensive there? And I thought when I first moved here, my brother was renting a full house for $900 a month,
No, it's
you
not
know,
bad.
and
Yeah.
and now the same house is probably a grand and a half. Like it's gone up a decent amount. But quality of living is through the roof. Like, who cares if the cost of living is really high? Quality of living is huge.
Yeah.
Because I found in Toronto the prices were skyrocketing. They were just massive. I'm like, you're buying a 2,500 square foot home in a cookie cutter subdivision neighborhood for $800,000 or $900,000, and there's
Right.
people everywhere and there's traffic everywhere. Here, if you spend 8 or 900 grand, you get like a wicked house with an ocean view and stuff like that,
Nice. Yeah.
right? So I feel like it's, I don't know, it's not really comparable almost. Um, but yeah, no, it didn't really factor in for me. I was just like, I want to be anywhere but in the GTA in the Greater Toronto area.
Right.
And I was like, Pender was really nice. I'll go back there and see what happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just love it here, man. It's a beautiful place to work and live. And going back to giving back to the community too. Like, I'm friends with loads of people. All my clients become my friends after. I'd see them around at the grocery store, and then
Hmm.
they message me, and I go have a consultation. It's like, oh yeah, of course I've seen you around. Right on, nice to meet you. And then
Hmm.
I'd end up doing their shower and stuff, and then we're buddies, you know.
Yeah.
So, and then I chat with them when I go out. It's a pretty social place sometimes. I go to the store and I'm just chatting with everybody.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes lunch takes 2 hours because I bump into like three of my old clients and we're just shooting the breeze, right?
Yeah. Pender
Um,
time.
exactly. And then like the contractors too and other people who are doing trades here, they'll message me and ask if they can borrow one of my sanders or something like that for a couple days. And it's like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And that goes every way, right? Because I've run out of stuff and I've messaged guys and be like, hey, can you help me out? So it's like nobody here is really competitive or like protective of their work.
Yeah.
Everybody's helping each other out and working together to get the projects built
Hmm.
and things done. So that
Yeah.
it's just a great atmosphere. And again, in the city, it wasn't like that. It was like
Right.
everybody's kind of trampling each other just to get by. So I
Yeah.
again, to sum it up, I feel really fortunate and lucky to be where I'm at, geographically and business wise.
Yeah.
Doing really well.
And so I would just like to emphasize, to anybody listening who maybe this sounds really appealing. I mean, go after it. There's loads of places in the US and Canada and around the world that are just like Pender Island. They're just like Pebble Beach. They're small exclusive areas where people fly in, and they own these homes, maybe their second, third homes, and they only, spend maybe a few months or a few weeks a year there. And the communities are tight. I would say go after it. You can absolutely have this, I mean, it sounds appealing to me. I mean, I'm
Mm.
starting to, think about my choices of where I'm living. I choose nice areas. I always choose, by the water because I just, like that thing you said, the quality of life. Again, born and raised in the Midwest, of the States here, I wanted to go to California. And when I got there, I wasn't going to stop short just because it was, 10% cheaper, 100 miles inland,
Yeah, it's like anything, right? The cost doesn't matter. It's
Right.
like we on some of your older podcasts, I realize that, and people have said that too. It's like the money actually doesn't matter. It's like
Yeah.
you want what you want,
Right.
and
And you get it
you'll
and you
find a
go
way to
get
make
it.
it work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So maybe
Exactly.
you'll move up to Pender Island then, Luke.
Could
Wi-Fi is
be.
good here.
Could be. Yeah. Yeah. If they'll let me up there.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, listen, Keith, man, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to record this. I know it's going to help a lot of people.
Nothing to it. I hope so. Yeah, I hope that it gets through to somebody and somebody gets a little light bulb thing going off some way. I don't know. I don't have too much to offer. I'm just a guy like getting by and doing the best that I can, and it is what it is.
Yeah, don't sell yourself short, brother. I love it. I love your story. I love how open you are. And I love where you're at. I mean, sincerely, I'm looking forward to following your progress and getting some updates and, following you on Instagram. If you're not following him on Instagram, that is Trueline_flooring at Instagram. So check him out. Check.
Thanks a bunch, man. I
Yeah. Yeah.
appreciate that. That's wicked. And yeah, it's all good things. It's onward and upward for me. I'm always trying to get better and do better. Again, tile's relatively new to me, man. So I've got a lot to learn, and it's one of those things where it's like the more you know, the more you learn, the more you
Yeah.
realize that you need to learn. The more you
Yeah.
know, the more you realize you don't know.
Right. Right.
So you realize
Yeah.
how much you don't know.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I think that's just going to be, a lifetime for tile contractors, just because, I mean, the products are always changing so much. I mean, has wood, like, let me ask you, I don't know. I've never done wood. I've never done, vinyl or laminate.
mm.
Are the products, other than, the actual size or, the way it looks, do the installation products or the methods change drastically, like in the wood installation world?
Not massively, no.
Yeah.
Back 20 years ago, we were doing a lot of oak. It's 3.25 inches wide, random lengths, 1 foot to 7 feet,
Hmm.
all always 3/4 thick.
Hmm.
Um, Brazilian cherry became popular. What happened there was that wood's too hard for fasteners to go through. So we did a bit more of a glue assist sort of thing and started
Right.
pre-drilling and nailing. So that changed a little bit. Now it's more wide plank and rustic looking, like hand scrape sort of wood. So now because it's wide plank, anything over 4 inches in width, I glue it and nail it. It's a glue assist, or I can do a full trowel glue down like installing tiles. That's how I install wood on treads on staircases.
Hmm.
Is I basically do it like tiles. I trowel this hardcore glue on. It's like a mastic, but it's made specifically for gluing wood to concrete, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, so no, the methods haven't really changed that much. The methods for hardwood have been almost the same for like a long time. They're
Right.
just they came out with pneumatic tools, and
Yeah.
everything is a bit easier on the installer now.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, you're right. Tile, like for me, I was like, wow, I need to, like, this is like going to college or something, man. I need to
Right.
learn all these products and what does what where. And so now for me, I keep everything pretty streamlined, pretty simple. I use X5 for floors, X77 for walls. I might use X90 once in a while for a shower pan or something that I need done fast, just as a rapid set because I like it. I use the same grout most all the time. I try to keep everything streamlined so it's always the same.
That's
That
smart.
way, there's no guesswork. Yeah, thank you. It's
Yeah.
it's just out of necessity because I don't have the capacity to figure all the other stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
it's
great.
just easy for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Pick a method and learn it. And I mean, it's good to keep your mind open to other things, but yeah, that's smart.
for
What,
sure, I actually
what,
did
yeah.
use Latacrete recently on that deck.
Yeah.
And that was something else, man. I used the 3701, the mud bed mix, and then I
Right.
used the 254 platinum.
Yeah.
And that stuff was wild. It was kind of like granny rapid. It was like, holy shit, this is it was
Yeah.
crazy. So I just want to mention your sponsor there, Latacrete.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, nothing to it.
Yeah, that those products right there, they're serious products. I mean, it's a good line of products to use and to know when to use it. And that's the other thing. Like you said, a deck, you're going to have to spend a little more time, thinking about that, the weather and, you really want it to be, no matter which product line you go with, you want to, I would say, call your rep, things of that nature. I bet the representatives from these companies love coming out there once in a while, huh?
They haven't been out here yet, to my knowledge, but
Yeah.
hopefully, maybe on this bigger project, they might
Yeah.
come out. And
Yeah.
that was I reached out on Global Tile Posse about that deck, and I did a couple live videos, and it was like, thank you everybody. Like Robert Davis gave me a call, that was wicked.
Yeah.
Jeff Delensky from Salt Spring gave me a call. I learned so much in like a 48-hour period. It was like a really accelerated learning period for me
Yeah.
because I haven't done too many outdoor assemblies, just like a
Right.
little, like on a concrete pad, nothing on like a wood frame deck.
Yeah.
That one went really well though, and it was a pleasure to use the Latacrete products. It was cool because TI Pro Board specs that like Latacrete and Pro Board seem to work together. Because
Hmm.
I was like, I usually use Ardex, so I'm open to using X90 because I can get it easy. But
Yeah.
they said Latacrete, so I use Latacrete.
Cool.
And it was
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the big vision? One last question, and then we'll let you go. What is the big vision? Do you think about, I hate to put yours on it, but maybe 10 years in the future or something. Do you think about, what your company may look like?
Well, geez, in an ideal world, I'd have 2 or 3 employees. Um, I try to pay people well too, so it's like the money's never really an issue as far as there's money on most all my jobs. So I'd love to have 2 or 3 employees that I pay well and take care of well. I like being on the tools. I like working, so I don't
Hmm.
want to take a back seat. Um, Again, in an ideal world, I'd get into real estate and work for myself and
Hmm.
basically buy homes and fix them up over the course of a few years and sell them.
Yeah.
Um, right now, I'm in the process of buying a property in Mexico.
Oh, really?
Like right now, yeah, I'm emailing people and sending the info.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, thank you. It's going to be close to Tulum, close to Cancun, just because I have lots of friends down there. I've been down there a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and that, that might be kind of cool. I don't know what's going to happen. For now, I'm just going to have a little chunk of the jungle
Yeah.
and I'll go
Yeah.
down there and get eaten up by mosquitoes. but but yeah, that moving forward, that could turn into something cool,
Yeah, for sure.
whether it's resale value in 4 or 5 years or it's doing B&B down there and accommodating tourists or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what my future looks like. Is I'm hoping to find something here. I don't know, own a home yet. I'm hoping to find something here that's like small and sustainable because I don't want to kill myself working. I don't want to be working when I'm 70.
Yeah.
But the way things are going, I might be. I don't know. Like,
Is it hard to get building permits there to build from the ground up?
you know what? That's a great question. It is because
Yeah.
we're on an island. Everything the property's finite, so there's
Yeah.
the building inspector's pretty sticky. There's what seems to be a lot of rules and regulations. Because where I'm from in Toronto, you just dig a big hole and put a foundation and you build a house on it.
Yeah.
Here, you're pinning into a rock. So the
Yeah.
building is a lot more challenging. They're factoring in seismic and all these other codes and things, and it does seem more challenging. So I'd buy a pre-existing home if I were to buy. I wouldn't buy a lot and build to myself.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I would anyway. Although I'd love to, I don't think I would. It just doesn't
Yeah.
seem as easy as buying a pre-existing home.
For sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, that's where I'm going.
Right on. Well, thanks for sharing
Yeah,
your story,
man.
brother. Appreciate it.
Nothing to it. Hey, thank
All
you,
right.
Luke. It was good to meet you and chat with you, man. I had a great time doing this.
My pleasure. My pleasure. All right, tile friends. Well, that was another great interview. I really want to thank Keith again for sharing and opening up. And if you want to reach out to him, like I said, follow him on Instagram, Trueline_flooring. And if you need a website, head over to happytileguy.com where we can build you a great website with SEO, search engine optimized behind it. And we will stay up to date as the internet changes and design changes. And we are always creating content like blogs that you can share on your website and gain some traction, and really people will start to see you as the expert that you are. So head over to happytileguy.com. Until next week, tile friends, stay profitable out there.
Hey,
All
well,
right. Thank you, Keith.